So I kind of forgot to mention in my previous video that I'm in Romania right now. Oops. I'm working with Perspective in Daneș. Absolutely check out Perspective. I'll link their website down below and their Instagram page as well. And I'm setting up a little theatre production with some children here. So for this video, I'm going to be making the set pieces that we need for that show. The story I'm going to be doing with the children is a combination of two Bible stories. The first one is a story where there's a group of fishers and they're trying to catch fish, but the net keeps coming back empty. And then Jesus tells them, throw the net on the other side of the boat. So they do that, and of course the net is now full of fish. And then Jesus tells them, if you decide to follow me, then you'll become fishers of men for the kingdom of God. So, of course, that's what they do. And then I combine it with the story where Jesus is on a boat with their disciples, which are the same people, and big storm breaks out. But Jesus is sleeping. He's just calm and relaxed. And then these people are like, Jesus, Jesus, why don't you care whether we live or die? We're gonna die in here. It's so dramatic. And Jesus walks to the side of the boat, to the front of the boat, and he literally yells at the storm and demands it to be quiet. And the storm calms down. And he says, have some faith. You should have trusted that it was going to be alright, because I was sleeping. I knew we were going to be alright. So we're going to need a boat and we're going to need a net. Now the boat is just going to be a flat boat. It's not going to be 3D. And the net is going to be reversible. So one side of the net is empty and then the other side of the net has fish in it. So that when they throw the net out, they can flip it, pull it up, and then it's full of fish. Wow! So yeah, that's the plan. Come along. I got a big cardboard box that a freezer came in. So I've claimed that box. The first thing that we have to do is figure out exactly what shape and size it's going to be. So I've got the cardboard laid out here. I'll show you. So, I mean, it's the size of my hand. It's a lot of cardboard. So I actually think that probably just this piece will be enough. So I will use that for all the 3D pieces on here that I want to add. And maybe I'll use part of it for like the little pointy bit here. But I also will need to use a lot of cardboard for on the back of it to give it some structure. So what I'm thinking is that because cardboard has like a directional fold, so with this one, you can see that there's these lines and that's where it folds easily. But in the other direction, it's much harder to fold it. So what I want to do is basically cut strips like that, then have these pieces like this backing that. You will have both the strengthening in this direction and the strengthening in that direction, which will keep it a lot sturdier. So here's going to be the big plan. The piece of cardboard has two folds here where, well, it's not just a fold, it's cut and then taped together. I will use those pieces, but I will have to reinforce them more than the rest. I will cut out a curve there, like an S curve, and then like a C curve at the back. And I will cut out a little piece in the middle, which, well, makes it look like that. Then I will add some details on top over here, some planks, maybe a detailed beam here. So that's the plan. It's, you know, not a historically accurate boat, but I don't think that matters. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So like that. Not quite happy with what's happening here. What if, okay, crazy idea, just a little bit up here, straight here, And then I'll add a piece here. Okay, I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. Ta-da! The thing is cut out. I've cut out the little strip, the curve, the other curve. I've got this little leftover piece from when I cut out the curve right there. And I think that kind of perfectly works as a support at the back here. Let me just, like that. It covers the line, gives that some reinforcement. It also gives this thinner bit some reinforcement. I will have to add some more in there as well, because this will be a fragile point. But as a good starting point, I must say I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I have 1 week to make this, and I really don't want it to look like rubbish. So I need to have a good think. But I'll just start with reinforcing this, and then I'll think about how I make it look good later. Shoop at the top there. Added a couple of support pieces, and I also just added this whole piece here in between. It was just looking a bit too small, so I had to make it slightly bigger, which I did. I can't really do anything else right now because I don't have any duct tape at the moment, so I need to get some duct tape because otherwise anything else that I do now is just gonna fall apart. Alright, so I've got some tissue paper, just the cheap stuff, doesn't need to be anything fancy, and actually it's better this way because with tissue paper, generally the more expensive stuff, they have all these patterns in it, and this just has like a little speckling, which means that it won't read as much. So this, combined with my PVA, a brush, and a cup with some water, gonna be something. So the idea is I paint on a little bit of PVA glue on the boat, and then I add on a layer of paper and smooch that around a bit so it creates a little bit of like a wood texture. And then I do that over the entire thing, and then when that dries I can paint it, and it gives it some depth. It'll make it look more like real wood, hopefully. Alright, I've done a little bit of a test piece here at the top. So I think it's working. It's kind of hard to tell what it's going to look like once it's done, but I try to really fold it in places so that creates slightly higher ridges, and yeah, I think it works. I'm curious how these bits are gonna look. I'm not exaggerating. 4 hours and 10 minutes later, and all of the textures added. So the whole thing, this part is still drying, but all of that is dry. Of course, this doesn't have the extra little bits on there yet that I need to cut out and stick on and add some texture to. So I added these 4 pieces here and 2 layers on top of each other across the middle section. I will now add some of this paper on top to tie it in with the rest, and then it's time to paint. So I've added the texture on the 4 little pieces here and the beam. So I've mixed my base brown So I finished almost everything. I'm now just touching up this edge. I'm not too concerned with it being the exact same color because it's just a tiny edge. Okay, so the whole thing is painted, which means that it's now time to just let this dry and paint the net, the fishing net. I just put the 2 rolls underneath, balancing this off the ground so I can use these guards for painting the net so that we won't get paint on the floor. So let's just hope that that doesn't topple over. I just made this cardboard sheet that's the same size as the duvet cover, and I will put this inside the duvet cover, and that way the paint won't seep through the fabric onto the floor, and yeah, that's it. First, I'm going to paint the side with the fish on it. So I'm going to paint a bunch of fish and then go over it with a... Okay, clear? And then when that's dry, I'll flip it and draw the lines on the other side. First, I want to sketch the fish. So I'm going to take a pen and a pencil and just start... And then I'll paint it, and then voila! Okay, so I finished drawing on the little fish, and that means I can start painting. So I finished blocking out all the different colours, and that means that now it just needs to dry overnight, and then in the morning hopefully I've got some time to add the lines. I want to add black outlines on everything, as I said before, but I think I'm going to do that before I add the lattice work, the net over it. So basically I finished the painting on this one and the texturing and everything. I want to add some lines indicating planks. Now it just looks like one big piece of wood. I think that way it would look like separate planks. And then when I'm done with that, I'll move on to the net and I will paint on the the net. The lines and the shading around there and at the bottom. I don't know whether I want to add the rope or not. I feel like without the rope it might be missing something, but the rope somehow doesn't look right. At first I was thinking of having a loop here, or maybe a couple of loops, and then have something hanging down, but that didn't look right either. And then I thought I'll do little swoops, but that didn't look right either, and I just don't know. I feel like it needs some rope on there. I think I'm just gonna look at some pictures of boats and see if inspiration strikes. This boat seems to have 2 ropes hanging like that, so I try that out on here. I do like this a lot more because it means you've got some interest going on, but it's not too overwhelming. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just cut the rope and then just tape it to the back. Yeah, I don't hate it. So I added the swoops. I also added a little bit of a thing here. Didn't want it to be any longer than this because I didn't want it to get like tugged or pulled. There will be a kid holding the boat here, so I thought I'll keep it relatively short. But yeah, pretty cool, huh? I'm just going to use a black pen to create the rope effect. I don't really have non-see-through brown paint, or paint really. So my original idea was to just draw on with paint, draw on the rope, and then use black outlines to, well, sort of make it fit in with this style. But I just don't think that's possible because the paint would be see-through, which means that you would see all the lines from underneath. So I might rethink this. I might change my mind in the morning, but my plan for now is to just use black Sharpie basically and just done. And then flip it, do the same on the other side. Bim bala boom, you've got a net. It's done. Adding those lines took literally 5 hours. When I say it took 5 hours, I mean 5 hours for one side of the net. The other side took another 4 hours to 4.5 hours. So I spent a total of 9 to 9.5 hours on drawing on this stupid net. Yeah. So, and I underestimated that. Whew. So yeah, I am going to bed. It's time for the final reveal. So, wrap up time. I'm really happy with everything. The show went great. The kids were really cute and did a really good job. I think everything turned out really cool. There are some nitpicky problems. On the boat, I think the sticky up bit should have been slightly longer, but it's not a huge deal. Also, the texture I don't think is quite as 3D as I'd hoped, but I think that's because I used very thin tissue paper. Had I used thicker paper, it would probably have shown a lot more. So that's just something to know for next time. But it actually worked quite well, and I think it turned out really cool, especially once I added the lines across to indicate the planks. The net turned out really cool. It's a shame that the paint dried see-through, and I didn't have time to get other paint. So it is what it is. It's fine. You can see the pen marks, but once I added the black outlines, it wasn't too noticeable. And especially from the audience, you don't see it, so it's fine. I'm not too bothered about it. The bigger problem was that the lines for the net look a lot better on the side with the fish than on the side without the fish. That's because all the pens were running out of ink. So I ended up using two pens that they did work, but they weren't as pigmented as the ones that I used previously. So they're just more of like a dark grey than a black. So that's a shame, but it's alright. I think overall they all everything turned out quite cool. It all took way longer than I thought it would. Who's surprised? Who is surprised? I'm so glad that you watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I post every other Sunday. I'm new here, you're new here, and let's go on this journey of art together. This journey of art together. That sounds weird, but anyway, just follow along. Feel free to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Bye. I've set aside some large pieces of cardboard and so first I will sketch on. Okay, let's try that again. My band. Re-angle this. So we did a little play with it. Oh, no. It is so hot. And I stopped properly functioning after 25, so this is fun. This is really fun. I'm enjoying it. Alright. It was good. Nice. That was great. Why don't you just add on extra time when you estimate how long something's going to take? And my answer to that was, yeah, that would be smart, wouldn't it?